Okay, welcome back to the end of another week. We're out on the other side of the garden since I don't come over here very often, but there was a pile of stuff here that I hauled to the other side of the property to shred up, and I'll show you that later. The septic is still a work in progress. The grass is actually growing in really, really nicely. It's almost gotten to the point where we have to mow it, but you can obviously see where things are a little lighter than they could be. The rainy season has definitely started, so I had to actually wait for the rain to stop for me to film. But I took the brooler thing and started reshaping the driveway here, so that's why it's all bald and disgusting. But inside the house, we have hot water, so I've actually done a little laundry, which is very exciting, at least for me. In the kitchen, unfortunately, not much is happening. The company was supposed to come at the end of last week and put the rest of the doors on, but that didn't happen. So maybe on Monday they will put it on. We have been using the oven. It's been great. Up in the rest of the house, we got our dining room light on, and we actually just went today and picked up this chandelier thing, which needs to be tweaked a bit more. But that's actually going to be going up there. And then we also have some appliques on the table there. And there's going to be 1, 2, and then a third one behind me. And the chandelier remarkably looks really, really good. In the bedroom, I don't want to step on it, but I will. Francis finished all the wallpaper last week, and then this week he worked on the baseboards. So you can see the baseboards are in. I did actually wipe the floor. There's still kind of a film, but it cleans up pretty well, and I'm probably going to drag my dirty feet if I go in, but we'll go ahead and go in and risk it. In the closet, we've actually mapped out the 2 different options for IKEA closet things. So the smaller line was the 30 centimeter option and the bigger line was the 50 centimeter option. And we've decided that we're gonna go ahead and go with the 50 centimeter option, which is cutting it kind of close. But it just means that when we have drawers, we won't be able to open them both up from each side at the same time, but I don't see why we would do that, so I don't think it's going to matter. We are going to terminate the closets about where this line is, and that way it leaves a little spot here and a little spot there for something, umbrellas or whatever. We did finally start getting the ventilation system done. So there's actually these vents. There's a vent here, there's a vent in the utility room, and there's a vent in the closet, in the kitchen. And those all extract into one unit. In the toilet room, oh my gosh, we actually have a sink. It's amazing. It's not actually plugged in all the way, but it's there, it's on. And there's the hole for the ventilation system in here, and in here the ventilation system's right there, and up in the toilet upstairs there will also be a vent. Moving upstairs, we have a toilet in the upstairs toilet room, well, the new toilet. All this silver stuff is for the extraction system. I think there's lights. Ooh, yes, there are lights. So yeah, this will get cased in with sheetrock. And the sink is mounted, but it's not actually plumbed in. And the drain is going to go along the floor, and basically all of the stuff ends up going down into that corner. But yeah, so toilet room upstairs is happening. This is the old toilet, which I'm pretty sure we're just going to throw away. I don't think anyone wants to keep that. From up here, we can actually see down to the rest. It's amazing to me that there used to be a wall like right here, so you wouldn't see anything. So it's really nice having the open space up in this area. And somebody had asked on the last one what we're going to do about the yellow. This space, this mezzanine space up here, which is currently yellow because that was the color under the wallpaper, is going to get painted. And we're actually going to be terminating the wallpaper along this line. And then on this other side, we'll be putting a similar like rail or delineation on the wall. So the wallpaper, the peacock wallpaper, is basically going to come up to a point, and then there's going to be a delineation, and the rest of it up here is going to be white. Yeah. So nothing much is happening in these rooms. This is going to be Francis's office, and then through there is what we're calling the toy room. But let me take you downstairs again. Downstairs, Francis has been continuing to work on the door frame here. So it's really, really, really pretty. He's been filling it in and then sanding and cleaning. So all the holes that had previously just had the spray and foam now have that really stinky wood filler, and he's sanded it a few times. And from the inside here, up in this section, he cleaned the beam that we decided to keep. And then you can see that like this has been filled in with plaster, and that's been filled in with plaster. So there was actually kind of a hole here. So he also filled that in with wood putty. And we'll just, the part that's supposed to be white like the plaster, we'll paint white, and the wood party part we'll just keep wood. But it's looking really nice. And then the inside here is just going to be painted white, similar to the plaster. And actually, if I step back out here, all of these really old bricks, we're going to kind of like knock down with the hammer and see what's loosey-goosey, and whatever else will end up just getting plastered in. So ultimately, this whole space is just going to be, it's going to be plaster around the wood frame. And then for the floor, I think I mentioned last week that we're actually thinking about doing some sort of reclaimed wood floor, but we'll see what actually happens. In my room, nothing much is happening. In the barn, the guy came with a giant concrete cutter tool that he rented, and he started cutting all of the spaces where the conduit's going to be. So we have all these lines in the concrete, and the blue tape on the wall is kind of where the electrical outlets will be. So that's a work in progress that will continue next week. Francis went and painstakingly started putting the lights up. I mean, there's no electrical that goes to them yet. But they're centered on the room, and he actually, I'm not sure if you can see, maybe on this one. He actually made these little like wooden platforms for them. So his lights are mounted on their platforms, and then they're hung by those chains from the barn. So it's looking very professional and very cool. But that's what's happening out in the barn. And then out in the yard, the pile that was previously over by the well, I had moved here, hence all the leaves. And I got the chipper out and I was chipping most of this weekend. So again, I'm setting up the chipper here. I'm just letting it chip into the space, and then I'm covering my landscaping fabric with the mulch. Up in the garden, you can see from the sky that autumn is definitely here, and it is cold and it is raining and it is super, super, super windy. So all of that rain dictated that it was time to start harvesting my winter squash. So here's my pile of winter squash. There's actually still quite a few squashes in the sea of leaves, but I'm not harvesting them yet because they're not ready. And I'm gonna wait a little bit longer and give them some time. But at least one of the butternuts actually rotted on the vine, so we lost that one, and another one actually split. So that's in the fridge at home, and I'll make something out of that soon. Peppers I harvested, they're actually in the freezer here at the house, and I'm gonna vacuum seal them for long-term storage. But there's still a bunch of peppers here. And then those not Espelette peppers that I was talking about, they're still here. And I actually found a recipe, a fermented hot sauce recipe that I'm going to try to make with those. So as soon as my supplies come in, I will harvest those and attempt to make a pepper sauce. But right now, yeah, basically it's the end of the summer season. It is getting cold. It's not freezing yet. The weather here is still pretty temperate. So we're not expecting freezes until like December, January. But it's definitely way too cold for tomatoes and peppers at this point. But I think that's basically it for this week. Things to come. The electrician is going to keep working on the electrical in the house. The kitchen person is supposed to come and put the doors on and take the measurements for the counters. We still have a bunch of miscellaneous work that needs to happen with regard to the ventilation system and the toilets and things of that nature. And then we'll have the tile guy come back out and try to finish or at least finish the tiles in the closet and then tile the toilet upstairs. And other than that, I think Francis and I have to make a trip to the déchetterie, which is like the equivalent of a dump, and figure out how that works, because there's a bunch of bags that are piling up. But I think that is basically it for this week. So until next week, I hope y'all have an awesome week. See you next week.